Hey, show me where you work. I was startled and unconsciously glanced at her face. With her typical condescending and conceited demeanor, Lauren, with whom I had reconnected during our reunion after 18 years, was making an outrageous demand. Why? I hesitantly inquired as to why. During her argument, she abruptly altered her tone and started emphasizing her points. I want to see with my own eyes what kind of lowly company a high school dropout like you works at. In an attempt to stop her hysterical outbursts, I reluctantly took her to a certain company. But the location was nothing like the humble office she had envisioned. It was a large publicly traded company. In addition, her husband, Kevin, whom she constantly boasted about, showed up for the meeting. Why are you here? Jason is my name. What is the new rock like? Are you fond of it? As I gazed into the aquarium, I spoke to my pet turtle, Buddy, whom I love very much. As the saying goes, turtles live 10,000 years, cranes live 1,000 years. With an average lifespan of almost 40 years, green turtles actually outlive other creatures. As I began to grow tired of living alone, I had the sudden impulse to adopt a pet and went to a local pet store. But for some reason, I didn't like any of the cats or dogs in the exhibit. Taking care of a live thing entails responsibilities, of course. I was undecided that day and left the store without deciding because I had never owned a dog or cat before. But when I came home, the thoughts persisted. Later, when I went back to the store, I noticed a sign that said, "Green turtles now in stock." Excuse me? What's this? A young woman employee in the area directed me to a tank with multiple green turtles swimming in it when I questioned her. I was totally enthralled by their big eyes, jet black bodies, and dark green shells. I observed their attempts to use their sharp claws to scale the rocks, and before I knew it, I had brought a green turtle and all the supplies needed for turtle care home. 3 years have passed since then. At least I'll be with this little guy for another 37 years. I had to go to work after setting the food timer and verifying the water's temperature and oxygen content. I ride a road bike instead of taking the train. In addition to being a pastime, it helps me lose the belly fat that began to annoy me once I turned 30. I've always valued the morning hours the most in my day, even before the craze for morning activities gained popularity. People's ability to focus and think clearly is considered to be at its best in the morning. Spending more than an hour riding my road cycle down Central Street in New York helps me decompress and may even inspire ideas for the next product. Actually, I had an idea for our flagship product, the Micro Proman projector, while I was stuck at a traffic signal on my way to work. The sweet scent of coffee wafts through the air. It's that time of the year again. The weekend is likely to be perfect for outings. If the weather is good, I'll take Buddy for a walk in the nearby park. Lost in these pleasant thoughts, I was suddenly approached by a woman waiting to cross the street. Hey, Jason. Turning around, I saw Lauren, a classmate from middle school, pointing at me in surprise. Lauren, who was one of the most beautiful girls in our class, if not our entire grade, still had a stunning, eye-catching beauty, now enhanced by the subtle allure of being 33 years old. She seemed aware she belonged in the bustling streets of New York. It's funny. What, are you a delivery guy? I couldn't quite grasp what she found amusing, but I assumed she meant, it's funny running into you here, interpreting it in my own way. She seemed to have mistaken me pedaling my road bike for a delivery rider. Sort of. What about you, Lauren? She flashed an unnaturally white smile. I have a photo shoot this morning, but more importantly, you're going to the reunion this weekend, right? Oh, right. I completely forgot about that. I remembered a postcard I had left at the entrance of my house. This weekend marks the 18-year reunion of my middle school class. The venue, if I recall correctly, is an Italian restaurant in Somerville. I'm planning to attend. As the traffic light looked like it was about to change, I replied briefly, "Make sure you come." She said in her usual high-handed manner, "Make sure you come." She hadn't changed a bit from those days. A stunning beauty with a flawless face and figure, but honestly not my type. I had seen many of my male friends in middle school get heartbroken by Lauren. Some were bluntly rejected and completely crushed, while others thought they were in a relationship with her, only to find out they were just being strung along. Who knows how many guys cried over her misleading behavior and cunningness. Of course, it wasn't just the boys. There were numerous couples who broke up simply because the boy had fallen for Lauren. Middle schoolers are in the sensitive period of adolescence. Once a conflict between boys and girls starts, rumors spread quickly in the confined school environment. Some girls were openly hostile towards Lauren, but she just ignored them as if nothing mattered. At the young age of 15, her audacity and brazenness were unparalleled, almost commanding respect. She carried herself as if the world revolved around her, a divine air to her demeanor. With her beauty and calculated behavior, she was like a bewitching witch at the top of the school hierarchy, manipulating those around her at will. On the other hand, back then, I was just an average middle school boy, more interested in club activities and video games than dating girls. The only thing notable about me was that my voice broke a little earlier than my friends. I wanted no part in the drama surrounding Lauren and her clique, nor did I want anyone taking away my precious gaming time. I was just a typical adolescent, perhaps even less mature for my age, while Lauren was a sophisticated middle schooler, years ahead of her time. I've always believed that I have a knack for sensing these kinds of things since I was young. Lauren was definitely one of those people. Her dazzling brilliance was beautiful from a distance, but get too close and you're likely to get burned. This unexpected morning encounter with Lauren made me reflect on my middle school days. As I pedaled on my road bike, arriving at work slightly sweaty, I finally settled into my day. As soon as I sat at my desk, I opened my computer. Our company has advanced in paperless operations, so everything from confidential contracts to personal receipts is stored electronically. At first glance, one might think there's no work left without physical documents, but once I opened my personal shared folder, a plethora of unreviewed documents awaited me. I let out a sigh and checked my schedule on Outlook, 5 mandatory meetings today and over 45 unread emails. I prioritized my tasks before diving into the material for the first meeting. Days like this fly by in a blink. Sometimes, it's important to take a moment to reflect on oneself. In that sense, the reunion might be a good opportunity. Finally, after finishing my work for the day, I left the office. On my way home, intoxicated by the even sweeter scent of osmanthus, I rushed back on my road bike. Upon arriving home, I found Buddy in the same position as when I left, leisurely yawning on his new rock formation. Then came the weekend. The reunion was set for the evening, so I had planned to take Buddy to the park during the day. But unfortunately, it was rainy. With no other choice, I tossed the pile of laundry into the washing machine and pressed the start button on its automatic dry cycle. Immediately, the drum of the washer began to whirl. Watching it spin, my thoughts also began to whirl, taking me back to my middle school days. That was the day of our graduation ceremony. By chance, as I walked down the corridor, I overheard Lauren talking with a friend. "What's with him? He's so annoying." "The worst, really," she said in a petulant tone. "Calm down. There's no guy who wouldn't be swayed by Lauren," her friend consoled her, trying to reassure her. Honestly, I was more surprised to hear that there were guys she couldn't charm. It wasn't eavesdropping, but I couldn't help overhearing. I decided to keep this fact to myself without telling anyone. After the graduation ceremony, almost everyone in our grade went on to either public or private high schools, with just one exception. I was heavily into the computer class I was attending as an extracurricular activity at the time and decided to forego high school to pursue programming more seriously. I convinced my parents to let me immerse myself in a free school. Luckily, my parents were very open-minded and laid-back people. "How about you attend a famous computer school in New York instead? Is that a sports thing? What if Jason becomes a world champion or something? If you're going to be on TV, Mom has to start losing weight now." That was how casual my parents were, mixing computers, programming, and esports. Normally, If one parent is lenient, the other tends to be strict, but both of my parents were optimistic. Perhaps because they had me at a young age, they saw me not going to high school as a humorous son trying to accomplish something different and unconventional. So when I told them I didn't want to go to school and just explained what I wanted to do, there was no conflict with them at all. At the same time, I was surprised and somewhat worried about their too lenient educational stance. But thanks to that, I am who I am today. Eventually, I passed the entrance exam for a renowned programming school in Chino Hills, California, which my father found for me. I spent 2 years there mastering programming skills. Armed with these skills, I started my job hunt, but I encountered an unexpected problem. The career counselor at the job center frowned upon seeing my resume and said, "Programming School H. This doesn't give you a high school diploma, so your highest education is middle school." Sadly, that was exactly the case. One reason my parents didn't object to the programming school was that if I passed the selection test, the tuition would be almost free, making the educational expenses significantly lower than going to high school. We weren't extremely poor, but we were a low-middle-class family. Both of my parents were from rural areas and had no savings since they had me at a young age. Afterward, I was rejected by every IT-related company I applied to through the employment office, and dark clouds started looming over my life. But being the son of those parents, I maintained some optimism. If I can't get hired, leaving the job center, I headed straight to the tax office. "Hey, Chasen over here." At the reunion, as I wandered around the large venue with a beer in hand, my best friend, Mark, spotted me and beckoned me over. "You didn't come last time, right? Good. You could make it." I had completely forgotten, but there was a reunion when we were 25. I think I missed it due to the flu or something. Actually, I ran into Lauren yesterday by chance. Hearing that, Mark was surprised. "Wow, Lauren's a super popular model now." We were in the same high school, you know. She was already doing reader modeling and appearing in magazines back then. "Look, that crowd over there is definitely around Lauren." Mark pointed across the room while holding his beer. Looking where he pointed, there was indeed a crowd, and Lauren was at the center. As expected, she radiated the aura of a leading lady, as if the reunion was held just for her. Noticing our gaze, Lauren smiled brightly while gently dismissing the classmates talking to her with a wave of her hand. She confidently walked over to us, unaffected by her slender high heels. "So, you were already here." "Long time no see," she said. Mark seemed flustered when Lauren suddenly looked his way. "Oh yeah, you're still as beautiful as ever." I had forgotten, but Mark did have a crush on Lauren. Back then, he was too shy to confess his feelings. Unlike the other boys, if I remember correctly, the number of times he initiated a conversation with her could be counted on one hand. After we exchanged brief greetings, Lauren ostentatiously showed off her left ring finger. The ring was adorned with what appeared to be a large, sparkling diamond. "I actually got married," Lauren said. We were both 33 years old. Somewhere in my heart, I had thought that Lauren might never marry. "Really? That's great. Congratulations." The old Mark probably would have hidden away and sulked after hearing that. It's only natural that he's grown up, and I found myself oddly impressed, almost like a parent would be. "I'm going to grab some food," Mark muttered. Maybe he still hadn't fully matured. Unable to endure the situation any longer, he left us to head toward the catering area. "My husband works at Microtech Inn," Lauren boasted. Microtech Corporation is a recently listed company gaining so much attention that it was even featured in the financial magazine's quarterly reports. So that's where Lauren's husband works. "What kind of work does he do? Which department?" Lauren seemed taken aback, not expecting me to inquire so deeply about her husband. She paused, looking like a pigeon shot with a pellet gun, but soon raised her chin and bragged confidently. "He's involved in creating the Micro Pro. I think it's the product development division. He's a manager, so he's on the fast track to success." Hearing this, something clicked in my mind. A certain person came to mind. Suddenly, the MC jumped onto the makeshift stage at the front of the venue and grabbed the microphone. Okay, let's start the much-awaited bingo game. Please get your bingo cards ready, which were distributed at the reception. And yes, we have prizes. Someone whistled loudly, amping up the excitement in the room. From somewhere, a long table on casters was wheeled in from the back. On top of the table were what appeared to be prizes: home appliances, gaming consoles, theme park tickets, and branded wallets. The lineup was surprisingly luxurious for a mere reunion event. No wonder the participation fee was high. The invitation card had mentioned that an Italian restaurant in Somerville was rented out for the event. Even considering the venue cost, a participation fee of $100 seemed like a ripoff, but seeing the prizes, it felt somewhat justified. The venue lights dimmed for the bingo game, spotlighting the host on stage. I later learned that one of the organizing members worked in stage technology, so the professional lighting was borrowed for free from their workplace. The first number is 24, announced the DJ, holding up a small ball with a number. Another organizer quickly wrote 24 on a whiteboard set up nearby. With the audience lights dimmed, the only way to see the faces of those around us was by the light spilling from the stage. Lauren, still next to me, whispered just loud enough for me to hear, "Hey, how about we make a bet?" I turned to her, puzzled. Her gaze remained fixed on the DJ on the stage. Whoever gets bingo first wins. I couldn't understand why she was challenging me to such a childish game. If I'd win, show me where you work. Her sudden demand caught me off guard. Why? I asked. The next number is 81, she continued. Maybe we'll see some reaches soon. The entire venue was getting into the spirit. Soon, someone nearby shouted, "Bingo." Lauren then suddenly turned to face me. Although her face was hard to see due to the stage lights, her eyes were cold and sharper than I'd ever seen. "I want to see where a high school dropout like you works." For a moment, the air between us turned icy. What's her deal? I never liked Lauren, not even back in middle school, and we weren't particularly close. If anything, I had kept my distance to avoid trouble. Yet now, for some reason, she seemed intent on involving me. Soon after, someone finally yelled, "Bingo." The venue erupted in applause. The lights suddenly brightened, allowing us to finally see each other clearly. Prizes are going fast, everyone. The next number is 7. Hearing this, Lauren smirked. Lucky number 7. I win. Remember our bet. She left me standing there in surprise and promptly went forward to claim her prize. Ah, there you are. Couldn't see you in the dark? Mark, who had disappeared earlier, found me and started chatting again. He offered me a plate overflowing with salad and fried chicken, insisting I eat. I debated whether to tell my best friend about my recent interaction with Lauren, but in the end, I decided not to tell anyone. The 18-year reunion came to a close without further incident. The prizes were all gone, and my bingo card remained without a win, reduced to just a piece of paper. Thanks for keeping your promise. See you today. Lauren messaged me on a messaging app within a week of the reunion. I wondered who told her my account, but decided not to look into it. I wasn't too keen on it, but a promise is a promise. I arranged to meet her in front of a certain company. Hey, this is my husband's company, she realized as soon as we arrived. Indeed, as she said, we were standing in front of Microtech Corporation. I told you I want to see where you work. Her tone was noticeably more forceful than before. To avoid further upsetting her, I silently followed Lauren into the lobby of Microtech Corporation, and together we approached the reception desk. I then asked for her husband by name. You are here to see Kevin. Do you have an appointment? No, we don't, I answered quickly. The receptionist smiled apologetically. Unfortunately, without an appointment, this lady is the wife of Kevin from the product development division. She insists on seeing her husband. The receptionist briefly glanced at Lauren. For appearance's sake, Lauren gave a small nod and murmured a polite greeting. Understood. I'll check with Kevin. May I ask your relationship to him? Lauren tapped her fingers impatiently on the counter, looking irritated. Why are you doing this? Calling out my husband like this? What are you planning? You and Kevin haven't even met before, right? Ignoring her questions, I handed my business card to the receptionist. Her demeanor changed instantly, looking back and forth between the card and me. Mr. Smith from Global Tech. I apologize for the oversight. Please go to the 15th floor. Lauren looked surprised at the receptionist's sudden change of attitude. Without fully understanding the situation, we got into the elevator together. Partway up, 2 female employees joined us. Noticing Lauren, they started whispering to each other. Is that the model Lauren? Lauren, accustomed to such attention, ignored them, maintaining her silence. Just as one of the women was about to approach Lauren, we reached our floor. Lauren brusquely stepped out of the elevator, expression tense. In the guest meeting room, after a short wait, the door opened. It was Kevin, Lauren's husband. Lauren, why are you here? Mr. Smith, what brings you here suddenly? Is there an issue with our products? He seemed more concerned about why I was there than about his wife's unexpected appearance. I'm sorry for barging in unannounced. Lauren, a former classmate, was curious about what her husband does, so I brought her here, I explained, showing respect. President Smith and his wife were classmates, Kevin said, a little surprised. I had no idea. I don't know the circumstances, but it seems my wife has caused some trouble. I'm truly sorry for that. Seeing the 2 men apologizing to each other, Lauren appeared awkward and embarrassed. Jason, I wanted to see what kind of place a junior high school dropout like you worked at. So, why did you bring me here? Lauren asked hesitantly, her eyes filled with suspicion. It seemed like the right time to reveal the truth. After graduating from middle school, I had dropped out of high school to attend a programming school. Once I had a reasonable grasp of computer-related knowledge, I started looking for a job. However, no company was willing to hire me, given my junior high education. After much deliberation, I decided to register my own business at the tax office as a self-employed individual. I began taking on small retail tasks for computer peripherals and simple programming projects. Gradually, my business expanded, and I launched my own original e-commerce site. Initially, it was just small computer parts, but eventually, I started dealing in other electronics. Now my company, Global Tech Incorporated, where I serve as CEO, has grown into a major e-commerce site dealing in various gadgets, catering to both professionals and amateurs. Our main products are computers, tablets, cell phones, and projectors. Microtech Corporation, where we currently stood, manufactured the compact projector Micro Pro, which was our concept and exclusively sold on our website. Simply put, Microtech was a subcontractor for Global Tech Incorporated. But recently, the dynamics were changing. Listen, Lauren, the man you're looking at, your former classmate, is now the president of a company with an annual turnover of $30 billion. Moreover, it's been decided that Microtech will be merged with Global Tech through an M&A. In other words, this place is also his workplace. If you don't want to ruin your marital relationship, you better take back what you said earlier and apologize to him right now. Chided by her husband, Lauren looked up at me with a miserable expression, but she wasn't the type to easily change her attitude. You've always been the worst, but now you're even worse, she snapped. Instead of apologizing, she glared at me with an even sharper look. Hey, she muttered, seemingly indifferent to the state of her marriage. Feeling uncomfortable, she swiftly opened a conference room door and left. Alone, Kevin, looking astonished at my reaction, muttered, I apologize for any inconvenience. Please forgive her on my behalf. He then seemed to remember something. Suddenly, Lauren once told me, when she was drunk, that she never licks any man she targets. Getaway. She was confident that every man would fall for her, but she mentioned there was one person who never paid her any attention. Could that have been you? His question made me recall the incident at our middle school graduation. Nobody can resist Lauren, so that was about me. But knowing this fact now didn't change how I felt. I didn't understand why Lauren had developed feelings for me, and frankly, I didn't think it was necessary to know. Her kind of temperament, playing with men while juggling several at a time, was not what I liked. My disinterest must have been apparent because Kevin gave a resigned smile. You just made a face that shows you have no interest in my wife. Lauren isn't a villain. It's like those kindergarten boys who tease the girls they like. Perhaps Lauren harbored similar feelings towards you. She wanted to prove how happy she is now, making you regret not paying attention to her. I see. The way Lauren looked at me during the bingo game and earlier was not sweet affection, but a dark mix of obsession and jealousy. It's an overcomplicated situation. It made me feel somewhat disheartened, but perhaps Kevin felt the same way. In a sense, being married to her, he might be suffering more. But maintaining his composure, he straightened up and said, "I apologize for this. I must be going." Before leaving the room, he was likely heading home to have a serious conversation with his wife. At least Kevin doesn't judge people by their surface. In the past few months, through professional interactions, I had come to understand his character. The setting sun started to glare into the meeting room. Well, time for me to head back and get to work. I'd thought of leaving Microtech Corporation a few months later. As usual, I fed my pet turtle, Buddy, before leaving home. It was a bit chilly for cycling on my road bike, but I anticipated that my metabolism would increase and warm up my body as I rode. Dressed in a breathable windbreaker, I set off for the office. It was about time for the cherry blossoms to start blooming. As I rode through the central streets of Manhattan, a large electronic advertisement caught my eye at a traffic light. Be more honest than yesterday. Apollo, newly launched last month. My company, Global Tech Inc., announced a new product, Apollo. Now prominently displayed in the electronic advertisement, Apollo is not related to the Apollo space mission, but rather derives from apologies. The new product, Apollo, is a gift-type wireless earphone with a messaging feature. There are two key differences from regular wireless earphones. 1. The sender can record a message for the recipient. 2. The message doesn't automatically reach the recipient. It only plays for 30 minutes if the earphones are worn at a specified time and location. Essentially, if you don't know when and where your intended recipient will wear the earphones, your message may never be delivered. The most important thing when giving a gift is to empathize with the recipient, putting them first without being self-centered. That's why Apollo has such a specification. This inconvenient communication method, contrary to the high-tech era, piqued interest, especially among young people on social media. The Apollo wireless earphones became a hit, reflecting good sales. People like Lauren, unable to effectively convey their feelings, are plentiful in this world. Though I will never reciprocate her feelings, I hope to help those who struggle to express themselves someday. I hope that Apollo is used to convey her true feelings to someone else, not me, of course. That recipient could be anyone, her husband, family, friends, or anyone else. According to Greek mythology, Apollo is also the god of healing. I have no presumptuous intention of curing her complicated personality, but those bound by jealousy and obsession could surely be saved by embracing honesty, becoming more loved by others, and learning to love themselves. Gazing into the big black eyes of Buddy as he munched on his food, I wish for the happiness of that beautiful witch who will never appear before me again.